Okay, I have Brent and Prime Gov, but I don't have Mr. Culver.
Ken, can you unmute your phone?
Okay, how's that?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Did you attempt to get into Prime Gov for voting?
No.
Okay, if you would voice vote on each item, just say yay or nay when motion's up for vote, and then we'll mark it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Francis.
Yes, hi, Jim.
Hey, how you doing? Since I'm a co-host, does
Yes.
that mean I have the ability to mute Christian York if I want to?
As co-host, you were supposed to bring the donuts.
Oh. Clearly, I don't have my Zoom act together.
Like I'm being picked on here.
Okay, Mr. Chair, it is now 10 o'clock and you do have quorum. Everyone's in attendance but Jacqueline Ames. So I'll look for her to join us later. If you want to go ahead and read the script whenever you're ready.
I will. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System video conference meeting. We have a few announcements to make regarding the virtual meeting. If the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting, it shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 30 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued to today, August 13th at 11 a.m. via video conference. The agenda and documents are located on okc.gov. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item, public hearing, or to speak under comments from citizens must call 405-297-2391 or text 405-219-7927 or email cityclerk@okc.gov to be allowed to speak. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. Speakers will not be able to unmute themselves, so you must sign up to speak and the secretary will unmute your device when you are recognized. With that, I will call the August 13th meeting of the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System to order. And item number 2 on our agenda is a resolution of condolence honoring Dennis Spencer. And at this time, I'll ask the secretary to read the resolution.
Yes, and I just wanted to let everyone know that Dennis's wife and daughters and son and family members are with us during the meeting. And also some of his associates from his firm are here. And you all will be, if you want to speak or say something, you can do so after I read the resolution. Whereas Dennis Spencer was born in Drumright, Oklahoma on November 14th, 1943, and passed away in Oklahoma City on June 22nd, 2020. And whereas the Oklahoma City Municipal Code states 3 members of the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System shall be appointed by the City Council who are residents of Oklahoma City and demonstrate professional experience in investment or fund management, public fund management, or private pension fund management. Whereas Dennis Spencer was appointed as a trustee of the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System July 20th, 2004 by Mayor Mick Cornett. And whereas Dennis demonstrated professional experience in finance for over 33 years, and the last 15 years being with Hilltop Securities. And whereas Dennis Spencer was a conscientious fiduciary to the Oklahoma City and the Oklahoma City Employees Pension Fund for over 16 years of dedicated volunteer service. Whereas Dennis enjoyed his time serving on the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System. Even when he was too ill to attend the meetings, he did not want to resign from the board. Now therefore be it resolved by the chairman of the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System that they do hereby extend their deepest sympathies to his wife, Barbara, and children, Deanna, Christy, Sherry, Jill, and Andy, and his 13 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. Now we need a motion to adopt the resolution.
Chair will entertain a motion. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please record your vote.
Just a reminder that if you can't see your voting buttons, you may need to press escape on your keyboard for them to pop up.
Okay, thank you.
I'm still not getting any voting buttons.
Okay, well, Carla, toggle back to your PrimeGov, to your Chrome button, see if it will come up.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
And Mr. Culver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is approved unanimously. First of all, I want to thank all Dennis's family members for attending the meeting this morning. It's really an honor to have you all with us. You know, I just want to say down there in that bottom, now therefore be it resolved, 13 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren, that says it all as far as I'm concerned. We love Dennis. It was a pleasure having him on the board. He was so easy to speak with. He was always there to give us his opinion and his input on, you know, all the items that we considered, and really going to have some big shoes to fill, you know, with whoever is elected, or pardon me, whoever is appointed to take his spot on the board. So again, thank you so much for being here. And we just want to thank you for Dennis's service over that extended period of time. Are there any other comments from any of the other board members?
Well, this is Frances, and I just want to say I've shared my comments with Barbara, but to his children and grandchildren, I really enjoyed Dennis, not only as a trustee here, but also just personally. He was always a joy to be around, and I will miss his stories. So thank you. And do any of it, Sherry, Deanna, do you all want to talk? You can just unmute your phone if you want to say anything. If not, that's fine.
This is Sherry. You can hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with Mom, and we watched it, and we just wanted to thank you all so much. And she and we are very touched that you would do this, and glad glad you guys were privileged enough as we were to be a part of his life. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and we will definitely miss Dennis. He was a joy to have on the board. So y'all take care and God bless.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda this morning is to approve the minutes of the meeting of July 9th, 2020. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Okay, Ken, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 3 is approved unanimously. Item number 4 on the agenda is the consent docket, and we have one item. Have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Mr. Culver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Item is approved unanimously. Item number 5 is to ratify approvals. We have 5 items that we could take with one motion. Have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Ken, you can speak up anytime.
Yes.
Motion is approved unanimously. Item number 6 on the agenda is to approve the claims docket. Chair will entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second. On item 6, please record your vote.
Yes.
Item is approved unanimously. Okay, item number 7 on the agenda this morning is to approve the following applications for service retirement, and we have several this month. Have a motion and a second on item 7. Please record your vote.
Yes.
Item 7 is approved unanimously. Item number 8 is to receive the report of death. I'll approve continuation of the pension to the spouse. Have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Mr. Culver, how do you vote?
Yes.
Item passes unanimously. Item number 9 is to receive the report of death, authorize payment of $5,000 death benefit, and authorize secretary to make necessary changes to conform on the following. Have a motion and a second on item 9. Please record your vote.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously. Item number 10 is to approve the request of the following to terminate vested rights and commence retirement benefits. We have 2 cases. Have a motion and a second on item 10. Please record your vote.
Yes.
Item is approved unanimously. Item number 11 is items for individual consideration. Item number 11A is the OCERS budget for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Does anyone have any questions for Regina before we vote? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion. Have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
yes,
Item 11A is approved unanimously. Item 11B is the agreement between the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System and the City of Oklahoma City regarding the city's obligation to provide certain professional and non-professional services and office rental to the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System and for the retirement system to provide certain professional services for the city. Does anyone have any questions on item 11B? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion. Have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
yes,
Item 11B passes unanimously. Item 11C is the administrative services agreement between the Oklahoma City Employee Retirement System and the City of Oklahoma City for administration of the 457 deferred compensation plans and the money purchase plan and trust numbers 8751 and numbers 7697 of the City of Oklahoma City. Anyone have any questions on item 11C? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion. Have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
yes,
Passes unanimously. Item 11D is actuarial services agreement with Gabriel Roeder Smith and Company to provide actuarial consulting services for the annual evaluation through the period of December 31st, 2022. Does anyone have any questions on item 11D? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
yes,
Item 11D passes unanimously. Item number 12A is the monthly investment consultant report. Jason,
Okay, thank you, Paul.
thank you.
So we also have the quarter report along with the monthly report. I'm just gonna touch on a couple things from the more detailed quarter report. The good news is the markets have continued to rebound, particularly growth-oriented equity markets. The active managers in your portfolio have really generated some good excess return across the board, as we'll see. But I just wanted to point out where we are on a year-to-date basis. So you see that in this column, very first column, the beginning market value of the total plan at the beginning of 2020 was a little over 785 million. Net additions, which is cash flows out for benefit payments and expenses, so far for the first half of the year have been about 16.1 million. And then the return on investment over the first half of the year was down 14 million. So at the end of June, the plan stood at 755 million. Happy to report at the end of July, the plan is right at 780 million. You'll see the end of July, the actual return is positive year to date now through the end of July. The market value is down a little bit because spending has exceeded the return on investment over that period of time, but certainly about back to where from an asset value standpoint where we were at the beginning of the year. Just looking at, I'm sorry, one more thing here. Just in terms of relative returns over the near term, we've talked a lot historically about this portfolio really being constructed to participate when markets are going up, but to protect in down markets. So over time, we're not going to get all of the upside, but hopefully by getting less when markets go down, by capturing less of that downside, the assets compound at a greater rate, and we get a little bit better excess return over long periods of time. And you're certainly seeing that now reflected in these numbers. So the very top here, year-to-date numbers in a period where the first quarter was significantly down and the second quarter saw a rebound. Overall, the total fund for the first 6 months of the year was down 1.6%. As I mentioned, when we add the month of July, you're actually positive 2.2% on a year-to-date basis through the end of July. Relative to the policy index, which is your asset allocation, what that would suggest if you were completely passively implemented, you've outperformed that by a little over 1%. And relative to other public pension funds, you rank in the top quartile over that year-to-date period. And really, as we go down here, you'll see that the peer ranking is in the top quartile overall, all periods. And that's really what we would expect in this type of environment where we've seen a big decline, where you have a little bit more protection. Periods like the end of calendar year 2019, while that was a good year on a relative basis, and even relative to peers, oftentimes we don't see this portfolio up as much as peers when markets are up, but really getting some good return, relative excess return for managers from both downside protection and during this rebound. I'm going to go to the monthly report because we can highlight a little bit more where the excess return is coming from. Certainly, as we have seen over the last several months, equity markets really globally have bounced back quite a bit from the bottoms that we saw in February and March. That's not to say that think we're out of the woods yet. Expectations across market caps and geographies and industries are still very uncertain. But what we have seen is pretty concentrated leadership in a couple of sectors, technology specifically within the large cap space, names like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, representing over 25% of the S&P 500 at points in time during the quarter, as well as healthcare and biotech. So the predominantly growth-oriented sectors of the market have significantly outperformed. Within large cap, on a trailing one-year basis, and I think I mentioned this last month, but this hasn't dissipated. The Russell 1000 growth, which is the large cap U.S. growth index, is up 36% on a trailing 1 year, whereas the value index is up 2%. So about a 34% differential. So the S&P overall is up about 19.5% on a trailing 1 year through yesterday. But the growth component significantly outperforming value. And we're seeing that really across market cap, within small cap and non-US as well. You've benefited in this portfolio. Your growth managers have done exceedingly well, but particularly within small cap, as we'll see, Earnest, which is more of a relative value manager as opposed to a deeper value manager, and they do have some factors within their security selection that really makes them look a little bit different than traditional deep value or contrarian managers. That has really benefited. So as we look on a 1 year basis at the composites, small cap, you'll see on the trailing 1 year now, up 6.25% relative to the index, the Russell 2500, which is down about 2%. Long short equity, or the hedge component, this is now the K2 Mauna Kea platform. up about almost 11% on a trailing 1-year basis. Relative to long only global equities, it's added about 300 basis points. So pretty significant outperformance there, and pretty significant outperformance relative to the hedged equity benchmark, the HFRI fund to fund strategic. Private equity, while typically we're looking at private equity as a return enhancer over time, and it has done that over long term. You're seeing in the quarter specifically, while this shows the month of July is flat, that's just because there's not been updates to market values. The June quarter, we did see the impact of the downturn in the first quarter reflected in valuations of private equity holdings that was reflected in the second quarter, because there's a lag in private markets. We saw that in real estate as well, where the core real estate assets had some markdowns in the second quarter. So again, lagging public markets in terms of valuations. Your non-US component, developed market managers, Harding Loevner on the growth side and Lazard on the value side, pretty significant outperformance there as well, up 5.4% relative to the EFI benchmark, which is negative on a trailing 1-year basis, even more so on a calendar year-to-date basis, but a good 600 basis points of excess return there. And then your emerging market managers have done very well, and that's somewhat indicative of the growth orientation. Wasatch, the EM small cap manager, certainly has a decidedly growth bias to them, whereas the Wells Berkeley Street is more of a core, but with a little bit of a growth bias, really avoiding some of the more beaten down value sectors. And you've gotten really nice excess return there, over 10%. So it's certainly good to see the type of return you're getting from your managers in a pretty volatile market environment. They are more than participating in the rebound, but you're getting that benefit from being down less in the downdraft. So overall, on a 1-year basis now, total fund gross of fees up 8.1, net of fees 7.6% relative to the policy index at 6.7%. So about 90 basis points of excess return net of fees on a 1-year basis. So certainly attractive. And then relative to your actuarial assumed rate of return, you've been very diligent in recognizing that we are in a muted return environment going forward. Just looking back historically at what markets have done isn't a good indicator going forward, because valuations are stretched. Interest rates remain at historic lows. If we were saying interest rates were at historic lows a year and a half ago, where the 10-year was at 3%, well, now we're at even more historic lows, where the 10-year is at about half a percent, a little over 60 basis points now. That is going to have an impact on future returns in both the equity and fixed income markets. And you've been cognizant of that by being fairly conservative in establishing that required return assumption and bringing that down now to 7%. The fixed income portfolio on a trailing 1 year, good absolute returns of about 8.7%, trailing that benchmark of the Bloomberg Barclays aggregate, which is up 10%. We've talked quite a bit about this the last few months. This is a function of, as rates have come down dramatically, the index is much more sensitive to rate movements. So as interest rates go down, bond prices go up. But going forward, the index has a much lower yield or income component to it. Not a lot more room for rates to go down. So your fixed income portfolio has been and continues to be structured to have less sensitivity to rate movements, which is a positive in a sustained low rate to rising rate environment, and more return drivers with respect to credit and currency and other things. And we've certainly seen the benefit of that over the last few months. This report year to date in 1 month isn't really reflecting that as much. You see it in the 1 month where you've got almost a 1.75% premium, but that's really been sustained over the quarter as a whole. Your bond managers have added quite a bit of value. Brandywine on the non-US side, as well as, so you see Brandywine for just the month of July up 6%. Western year to date now, much of this is in the quarter, but even the month up 2.5%. The PAMCO portfolio, which has been in this portfolio for in your plan for some time, this is being liquidated and used to fund the liquid absolute return strategy, PGIM, Prudential Investment Management, that was selected last month. That actually, a pretty significant portion of that happened at the end of the month. That's why you see cash so high at 26.7 million. PAMCO liquidated 23, approximately 23 million. And that was funded to PGIM, I believe it was yesterday. I'm sorry, I'm looking through my notes here. But that funding has occurred. The expectation is another portion of that PAMCO money will come in October, about 20% more, and then there'll be a holdback. It's going to take some time for that to be completely wound down because of some of the positions aren't as liquid. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but the PGIM was funded, so that we have in place now, and that's daily liquid. So all in all, very strong rebound for the portfolio, both absolute terms and relative returns. We're very pleased with manager performance. From an allocation standpoint, just continue to be a little bit overweight to equities because of the bounce back. We just raised some money for benefit payments for the next couple of months. That 26 million in cash is not there now because it was used to fund PGIM, and we raised 10 million this week from large cap, the SSGA fund, for August and September benefit payments, and just to have a little bit of a buffer there in the event there's any capital calls from private equity. Any questions on the monthly or quarterly report? Okay. Do have another item, just some proposed modifications to the investment policy. This primarily is a result of changes made to the allocation, replacing the PAMCO low volatility hedge fund strategy with the liquid absolute return strategy. So just bringing the policy in line with that, but also we are required, or it's good practice, best practice, to review policies on an annual basis. And there's just a couple of cleanup items that we're proposing. So as I mentioned, this is really all just administrative and cleanup. The first item, this is just in terms of consistency on page 3. You've had an allocation to real estate and guidelines for real estate for some time, but this section on objectives and guidelines, there were paragraphs related to equity and fixed income. We didn't have a paragraph on real estate, so just to make it consistent and flow better, this paragraph was added. It's not changing what you've already been doing, and you've already had an allocation to real estate that was reflected in other places in the policy. It's just felt it was more appropriate to include this as well. The next is with respect to the allocation on page 5, just changing out the low volatility hedge fund strategy for liquid absolute return. You've approved this allocation changes. It's just reflecting that the different really nomenclature and what we call this strategy and what it is in the policy. So it's a one-for-one change there. Also, this statement here about with certain hedge fund strategies may be in the fixed income portfolio, because the liquid absolute return is not a hedge fund strategy. It's not, you're not implementing that through a hedge fund vehicle. It is a daily liquid mutual fund. So we just took out that reference there. The other item unrelated to the guide, page, what page is this? Page 6. Again, just reflecting, as I mentioned, as you bring down that actuarial assumed rate of return, we're just reflecting what it currently is. We confirmed this with Regina. Believe that is what your current assumed rate of return is. So just reflecting that. The next is on page 17. So this is the appendix, begins on page 7, and that the appendix includes specific asset class guidelines. They're pretty much similar in terms of the criteria. We have investment objective guidelines if they're asset classes where you have separate accounts, which at this point is just large cap and small cap, and then performance criteria and objectives and communication requirements for the manager. So they all look pretty similar with some slight exceptions. So one is in private equity, we have a stated return objective, which is on page 17. So this objective, we had previously had a 500 basis point premium to the S&P 500. And that was, that language really goes back to when you first implemented private equity over 13 years ago. To be more, our long-term capital market assumptions today, our capital market assumption for private equity is about a 2.5% premium to long-only equities. So this is just more reflective. We're not changing what we're doing in private equity. It's still there to enhance return, but this is more realistic based on what our capital market assumptions are. And really, it's really over a long term. If we look at any 5 to 7 year period, it's dependent on what's happening in the public markets. We know that private equity has a long-term time horizon, so that we're just being a little bit more general.
Yeah, long-term is a little more subjective, isn't it?
It is, but like the 5 to 7, most the funds you're investing in have a 10 to 12 year time horizon. So as the program becomes more mature, meaning it's getting closer to fully funded, we should expect that premium over time. But periods like the last 10 years, when public markets are up 15, 16%, private equity may lag over that kind of shorter term time period, but not over a 10 to or a 15 to 20 year time horizon. What appears to be big changes or additions is really just the removal of the low volatility hedge fund guidelines because PAMCO is coming out, and then the addition of specific guidelines for liquid absolute return. Because it's implemented in a commingled fund, we try to mimic how they describe the fund guidelines here, but performance criteria similar to your other managers. With this asset class, liquid absolute return in this strategy doesn't really have a benchmark. There's not an investable benchmark, if you will, but there is a return objective as they've identified, which is T-bills plus 3%. And so we identify that here as well as relevant peer groups. So while it may seem like a lot, the major things are, bringing in line to reflect the changes made by eliminating the low volatility hedge fund strategies and adding liquid absolute return, and then some slight cleanup items that we've identified.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you, sir. Item number.
Paul, I think that would require a motion, I believe,
I think so too.
to approve as recommended.
Well, thank you for keeping me in line. And the chair will entertain a motion on item 13, the investment consultant report, and specifically item 13.
I think it's 12C, isn't it?
12C.
It is 12C. I stand corrected. I have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Yes.
Item passes unanimously. Now,
Last thing, and I know it's just a blurb, we sent out an invitation or save the date for some education sessions that we're going to be doing specifically for our Oklahoma public fund clients. I apologize, we didn't have a time on there. We're planning to send another one out with a time. These will all be at 11 o'clock on those dates, and so we're trying to think of ways to help fill the gap perhaps that the public fund conference that won't be happening this year, and try to provide some educational opportunities for our clients in general. So hopefully, these will be some relevant and good information for you all, and we really look forward to you attending. The other thing that I wanted to mention is Regina and I talked about this the other day. We'd like to do kind of like a new trustee education session just for you all, just a trustee refresher course where we can do an hour long webinar that's more specific and geared toward your plan, kind of like what is done the first day of the public fund conference in the afternoon, but a little bit more geared to you all. And so I want to work with Regina if that's something you all would be interested in. It doesn't have to be everyone, but whomever would be interested. And we'll try to come up with a date here in the next month or so, if you all think that's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea. We're currently in the nomination period for nominations to fill Regina's seat, and that ends tomorrow. So we'll have another new trustee here very shortly. So I think that'd be very beneficial.
Perfect. So we'll wait for that person to get on board, and then we'll get something scheduled.
Okay.
Paul, this is Francis. How about Dennis's replacement? Will that be done in a month?
I will have to shake that tree and find out what's going on over in the mayor's office. I know they've been notified, so I'll I'll contact Steve Hill later today. Okay, item number 13 on the agenda is comments from board, staff, and citizens. I want to jump in real quick and give a big thank you to our new ERS manager. She has, not to sound too cliche, but she has taken the bull by the horns. And I have been extremely impressed with her diving in and just doing everything that we expect our manager to do. She's done a great job for only being on the job for a very short period of time. So
Thank you.
And Paul, this is Wiley. I would echo that same appreciation of her. She's been put in a very tough position, and it's been a pleasure to work with her over the last couple of months.
JC and Brent, anything from Caddo County this morning?
No, all is well, I believe, in Caddo County. So, and Canadian County at that, and here in Oklahoma County. So all's well. So thank you.
Okay,
It's true.
thanks for the update. Okay, hearing no other comments, we are adjourned at 10:44 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.